So, this happened. Donald, it doesn't count if you're clapping for yourself and everybody else is booing. Listen, that's what happens when you're stupid enough to show up at a quintessential New York event, the men's final of the US Open, coming to a city that hates your guts. And it also takes a very special, very, very anti American human being to get booed during the national anthem. Good job. Let's dive in. Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Mary Trump Live. It is awesome to have you with me. We've got some good news for a change. Today, there was an update on Donald's effort to appeal the ruling in the defamation case brought against him by total badass Jean Carroll. MSNBC reported on the latest. Take a look.
We have more breaking legal news just in. A federal appeals court has upheld the verdict that Trump defamed writer E. Jean Carroll and that he must pay her $83 million in damages.
So, Anna, this is the second ruling from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in the second E. Jean Carroll trial. You'll remember E. Jean Carroll went to trial against President Trump twice. The first of her verdicts was upheld by this same court. That was for a $5 million award. This is the verdict that represents what President Trump said about E. Jean Carroll when he was still in office. So he appealed that verdict on multiple grounds, including the fact that the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision should have protected him not only from damages, but also from even having to sit through the trial in the first place. Today, through what's called a per curiam decision, meaning it's unsigned, all three judges agree. They have upheld the verdict in its entirety, including the punitive damages award. That means, as of today, E. Jean Carroll's $83.3 million verdict against President Trump still holds, and it is accumulating interest over time, so that ultimately, if the Supreme Court either upholds it or rejects the challenge by President Trump, she'll walk away with even more.
This should be our new favorite phrase, carried interest over time. Okay, so E. Jean Carroll is an extraordinarily brave person. So too is her lawyer, the great Robbie Kaplan. E. Jean Carroll, as far as I know, is the only person who has successfully held Donald accountable. She has won time and time again, but because he's a coward and is incapable of owning up to his own mistakes, he keeps appealing. And he keeps losing. Well, because he's a loser. And that's what losers do. However, this all comes down to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, which has shown itself perfectly comfortable ignoring precedent and, ignoring the Constitution. So this is a case that the Supreme Court should not even look at. We're just going to have to wait to see how convincing Donald's immunities arguments are, especially given the fact that the Supreme Court is the one that gave him that argument. Here's hoping that for once they get it right, because I can think of nobody who more deserves the fruits of her labor than E. Jean Carroll. This is not the only scandal, because remember, yes, E. Jean Carroll sued Donald for defamation, but he was also found by a jury of his peers to be an adjudicated rapist. There's another scandal, though, that Donald cannot seem to get out from under. And that would be the fact that despite his protestations to the contrary, it is not Democrats at the upper echelons of the party that are mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein files. It is Donald. And that is according to his own Department of Justice. Today, the Wall Street Journal's Khadija Safdar and Joe Palazzolo, reported that, quote, lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein's estate have given Congress a copy of the birthday book put together for the financier's 50th birthday. Financier. Okay. Financier slash sex trafficker and rapist of girls and young women, which includes a letter with Donald's signature that he has said doesn't exist, unquote. I can attest to this because I've seen it many, many, many times. That's Donald's signature. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee then released the image of the birthday album to the press. It includes the infamous message we've already heard, a note saying, quote, "A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret," unquote, and then the aforementioned signature. This message appears over a line drawing of a naked woman and her breasts. Now we've seen reporting on this correspondence from Donald to Epstein. I mean, we've seen reporting about it, but we haven't actually seen the real drawing until now. There were fakes going around, which was obvious that it was not Donald's signature. But I'm telling you, this is the real deal. In July, Donald sued the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion, claiming they defamed him when they first reported on the existence of this note. Now, congressional Democrats have shown that the message does, in fact, exist. I can't believe that Donald was actually lying about this. When revelations of this birthday book first came to light months back, this is what Donald had to say.
For the election, yeah.
Do you think that drawing, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report.
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
Do you think it was fraudulent?
I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, would you draw a building? And I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, you know, for a charity stuff. But I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women. That I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women.
I'm not a drawing person. I've never heard it put quite that way, but, you know, as always, he's so eloquent. Donald and the Trump regime are sticking to the playbook he learned at the knee of Roy Cohn. Lie some more, and attack. After the news came out today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted to Twitter, quote, "The latest piece published by the Wall Street Journal proves this entire birthday card story is false. As I've said all along, it's very clear Donald did not draw this picture and he did not sign it," unquote. She then goes on to attack one of the Wall Street reporters by name, which is really not something somebody should do on behalf of the president of the United States. Look, he's clearly lying, because when have you ever known Donald not to brag about how great he is at something? Now, all of a sudden, he doesn't do drawings. He's not a drawing person. Democrats need to keep the pressure on the DOJ for the release of the full unredacted Epstein files, which will potentially incriminate Donald. I mean, I cannot for the life of me understand why he is so adamant against releasing the files if they would clear his name, or more to the point, implicate all the people he's been promising his base they will implicate. But here's the thing. Yes, Democrats, keep up the pressure, but it's sort of irrelevant. The people who are going to keep up the pressure for the release of the unredacted Epstein files are the very people Donald's been lying to for the last decade, his base. So let's see how Donald is faring with voters. A recent NBC News poll has more bad news for him. MSNBC has more on the latest findings.
A new NBC News poll shows Americans are feeling negative about President Trump's job performance, particularly when it comes to the economy. According to the latest NBC News Decision Desk poll, when asked about inflation and the cost of living, 61% of Americans say they disapprove of the president's handling of it so far. 59% said they disapprove of President Trump's handling of trade and tariffs. Joining us now, former Republican Congressman Deborah Ringleman and Michael Hardaway, former communications director for now House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and publisher of the Hardaway Wire. Congressman, the economy is the top issue across all parties, yet the president is seeing his weakest numbers on this issue. Should the White House be worried about it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's even personal examples. You know, I own distilleries, not only AI companies, but I own distilleries. But we just got a 50% tariff notice for glass and some of the other things that we use to do bottling on our lines. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been trying to figure out what do you do, right? Do you actually raise prices? Do we limit production? What do we do with bottles? Do we forward lean and get more bottles, right? When I talk about pallets, I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars in added costs for our companies. I can't imagine what it's doing to larger manufacturers if you go downstream on tariffs. The economy is the single biggest thing here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I can tell you that, especially with the job losses up north with government jobs and contractor jobs, and you're seeing sort of these arbitrary cuts coming down right through DOGE and through other mechanisms. So for right now, I think the economy is not in a great place. If you look at the revised June numbers going down, only 22,000 jobs added this month. The messaging, I think, from Democrats and independents could be simply, this is a failed experiment in the first 8 months, and there has to be a course correction.
Course correction. That will require a mature human being who understands how to correct his course. That also would admit that he was wrong, and Donald is incapable of doing that. So things are going to continue to get worse directly as the result of his benighted, misguided, and intentionally cruel policies. This is one of the reasons he's panicking. He can't control the narrative anymore, even if he fires people whose job it was simply to report data. This is why he is trying the trick of unprecedented redistricting to rig in advance the 2026 election so he and his fascist party keep control of the House. This is why he's so desperate to make sure that immigrants are not counted in the census. Okay. I think it's Monday. It's anybody's best guess because it never feels like we have weekends anymore. So there was not a lot going on today. However, it feels like a lot because every day feels like we're approaching a tipping point. Every day feels like we are just one step closer to the point of no return. So while the news today was good for the most part, it's always against the backdrop of the things that we aren't talking about when we revel in E. Jean Carroll's victory or we feel vindicated by the release of the illustration and note Donald signed to the sex trafficker and rapist of girls and young women, Jeffrey Epstein. We are still facing serious economic calamity, and the Republican Party is still very much in charge of everything. The Democrats, meanwhile, seem poised to give the Republicans yet another win by agreeing to keep the government open. So, again, let's take our wins when we get them. It is important. It is so important to celebrate the successes. So let's be energized by them, but let's not drop the ball, and let's make sure that we keep bringing pressure to bear on people who still do have power to slow down, if not completely stop, the fast encroaching fascism. Because let's face it, the Trump regime is a fascist one, and the Republican Party is a fascist one. And agencies like ICE are their brown shirts ready to do the Trump regime's bidding. So just to keep it all in perspective, and also I think it's good to have earned our emotional support moment, which is where we are right now. So first we breathe, and then we get to acknowledge the fact that today is National Star Trek Day. As some of you may know, Star Trek is one of my favorite shows. It was actually foundational for me. I started watching Star Trek when it was on reruns on Channel 11 in New York City. The lessons I learned from Star Trek have stuck with me. The ethos of Star Trek is one I deeply believe in, and today it's also it's a good time to remind you that my show with my friend and co-host Bob Seska, Trek Politics, just re-premiered. I guess it's season 2. We had to take a bit of a break, but we're back, and we just recorded episode 2 with the great Tim Russ. That's going to be dropping this coming Saturday. So to celebrate National Star Trek Day, let's take a look at some coverage of the events happening today. Here is 8 News Now.
Looks like space, the final frontier. From classic comics to full dress up, it is Star Trek Day, and it is beamed into One of Us Comics down in Henderson. JC Fernandez has been there all morning long, a little look there at Picard, and you've got someone in costume talking about the fandom and what they do for the community.
Yeah, Nate, this whole day is awesome. National Star Trek Day. And the reason we're celebrating Star Trek Day is because back in 1966, on this day is when Star Trek premiered. Steve Johnson, he's the toy expert. How many episodes of Star Trek were there?
So you only had 79 in the original run. But what you have to remember is you had 150 domestic markets and over 60 international markets that it went into. And at that time, reruns were king on TV.
Yes, they were. I think I spent my entire childhood watching reruns of shows that weren't on anymore. So, because that's all we had. We didn't have, you know what? A long time ago. Anyway, happy Star Trek Day, everybody. I should have worn my Picard Season 3 jacket that I got at Star Trek Las Vegas. Maybe next time. All right, let's get to your questions, comments, etc. Greg, thank you so much, as always. This is a 46th wedding anniversary celebration fee. Holy cow, congratulations. I didn't know that was a thing that was possible. Good for you guys. Seriously. Electron Creations, thank you very, very much. Ooh, I'm a Trekkie just for kicks now. Been this way since 1966 now. Cool. I don't know what the tune is, but even if I did, I would not have sung it because, you know. I was 10 then, watched the original series pilot. Happy Star Trek Day, Barry, and happy Star Trek Day to you. Yeah, I caught it in reruns, but it was magical. Kelmar is a new member. Thank you so much for that, and welcome. Bye to Cheryl. Thank you so much, as always. Gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Pam, that was a delightful moment. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but perhaps the booing at the U.S. Open men's finals. It was, if that's what you meant. Joe, thank you very much for that. Blanche, comment, yay, Eugene. No kidding. What a badass. Dorothy, thank you so very much, Dorothy, for gifting 1 Mary Trump Media membership. That's wonderful. Night Owl, thank you very much for that. This is an E. Jean Carroll celebration fee. Good for her. Good for her indeed. I will pass that along. Karen Steele Music, comment, Supreme Court is rigged. Yeah. Yes. It is a corrupt, illegitimate supermajority that is systematically unraveling American democracy. Unimpeded, I should add. Diane, thank you very, very much. This is a happy dance fee. Question, will King Kumquat, I've not heard that before, withdraw his lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal? No, he'll probably sue them for $100 trillion now, because that's what he does. Minus Cheryl, thank you again. Comment, please tell the mashed potato story fee. Congratulations, E. Jean. Please tell her we love that she keeps winning against Donnie. I will. And I have, but I will tell her that all of you share that sentiment. And don't worry, the mashed potato story will get retold. And perhaps there will be merchandise. Joe, again, thank you so very much. Hi, Mary. Hello. Question. Oh, no, sorry. Comment. Hi, Mary. Happy Star Trek Day. And to you. Question. Do you think the Supreme Court bows down to Donald because they're also involved with Epstein? I can't speculate as to that, but I don't know. I'm just more worried that they're going to side with him because they're so corrupt. And they believe that there should be a unitary executive as long as that unitary executive is a Republican. Or actually, worse, Donald, which, go figure. Richard, thank you so very much. Comment. At first, seeing the last part of Trump Trolls Trump was hilarious. Then I remembered that he's a U.S. Senator, and now I'm just horrified. Yes, I believe you're talking about Mark Wayne Mullen. Yeah, yeah. Although, I mean, it could have been, they're all, name me a Republican senator that is not absurd and horrifying. I could think of several just off the top of my head. Being Nancy, thank you very, very much. The comment is, loved you on Keith Edwards. That was a really great interview. I had a good time. It was really fun hanging out with Keith. So everybody go check it out and give his channel some love. TNT Maria, thank you as always. PJ, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Truly. Comment, the bombing of the Venezuelan boat was the murder of 11 people. Yes, it was. It was. Also, there's no proof. There's no proof of who those people were. There's no proof that they were running drugs. Why? Because all of the alleged proof was blown up. There was no due process. It was literally, it wasn't even that suddenly now the death, it's, being a drug runner or having drugs gets you the death penalty. No, because the death penalty would require a trial and being found guilty of something. Oh, and also being arrested and giving your due process to defend yourself in a court of law and be tried by a jury of your peers. No, the penalty for being an alleged drug runner or somebody with drugs in your possession, or perhaps just being Venezuelan and driving a boat, is murder. Blue Lady, comment, yay to National Star Trek Day. Yay, indeed. I say again. President number 46, comment, that's definitely Donald's signature, period, full stop, enough said. It is. And, I saw him sign his name hundreds of times over the course of my life. So, yes, that's why when the first one came out, I knew immediately it was not his signature. And this time, I knew immediately that it was. Susan, thank you so very, very much. As always, gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. That's fantastic. Bonnie, no matter who's in the files, release them. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care if it's people I think I admire. I don't care if it's people. I don't care. Because if they're in the files, I'm sure there are people in the files who aren't implicated in anything. They just happen to be mentioned for one reason or another, or they're survivors or what have you. But if somebody's implicated in those files and is complicit with what Epstein and Maxwell did, yeah, throw the book at them. Michael, thank you as always. Comment, he wants to steal Venezuelan oil. Yeah. Yes, and or create some international incident that just, creates a massive distraction. That's also, a horrible thing in its own right. Use it as an excuse, declare war, declare martial law, what have you. I mean, he's desperate and he's got a lot of people around him coming up with anything they can think of to get him off the hook, to keep themselves in power. In the middle of nowhere, this is incredible. Thank you so much for gifting 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. Mary, as always, thank you for that. Comment, stop the world and let me off, eh? Well, only if we can bring the cats. In which case, sure. Nah, we need you guys sticking around. So, Dennis said, thank you so much as always for that. Comment, an explanation of yesterday's post is in the comments from Sun. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm missing something there, but maybe somebody in the comments could explain it to me. My apologies. In the middle of nowhere, again, thank you so very much. Comment, loved recent interview in which you gave an account about mashed potatoes. There should be a t-shirt. I agree with you. There should be a t-shirt, and I should tell that story again, and I will. Thank you again. CBB, thank you. That is fantastic. comment, happy Star Trek Day, Mary. Thank you for Trek politics and for keeping the Force alive. Absolutely. Not to mix our science fiction metaphors or anything. It's all good. Telebubba. My apologies. Live long and prosper to you too. I don't think I can't do that with my left hand. I'm very right-handed. Neely, wow. Neely, that's incredible. Thank you, and extremely generous. So thank you for that. And you live long and prosper as well. I should be doing it that way. Thank you so much. And Vicky, thank you very much, Vicky. Question, why would presidential immunity apply in Eugene's case? I don't recall sexual assault being an active official capacity of president. Curiosity fee. Well, because the Supreme Court is making it up as they go along. Also, like my question is, so is immunity retroactive? So basically any president still alive can do whatever they want. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's very worrisome that this Supreme Court, as it's currently constituted, would say anything the president does is an official act, just as Richard Nixon once said, if the president does it, it's not illegal. Might be where we're heading. 1 second. Okay. And last up, Zella, thank you so much for that comment. Original Federation Generation Watch 1966. All reruns and dressed up for movie premieres and conventions, as one should. That's fantastic. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I will be back, of course, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube, everybody streaming on my, what's it called? It's called Substack. My Substack, The Good in Us, and on Twitter, to everybody gifting memberships, becoming a new member, all of our super stickers, and everybody giving us donations. We appreciate it so much. You seriously help us keep this thing going, and it means a lot. Trust me. To our phenomenal moderators for being phenomenal and doing such kind of thankless work, quite frankly, that we so appreciate. And of course, to my amazing team, just for, for hanging in there and just getting it right all the time, and for keeping me in this and, making me look not so bad sometimes. So thanks, guys. There's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot that we're going to be sharing with all of you in the next couple of weeks. So in the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. We finally got over 460,000 subscribers, but we really, really want to get to 500,000. And every little bit helps. Please watch our videos, like them, share them, comment on them. That all helps us tremendously. Because remember, in addition to the lives, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the Ask Mary Anything Within Reason on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, we have at least 2 videos dropping every single day. So check them out. I honestly think that you will like them a lot. And that does it for us. Again, I will see you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe, be kind, and live long and prosper. Bye.